What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my Better Call Saul reviews, and now we are at episode 10 of the final season, an episode titled Nippy. So this entire episode takes place in the post-Breaking Bad timeline, the Gene timeline, if you will. It's all in black and white, and it's essentially a heist episode. It's a back to the basics of Better Call Saul scheme. From the first frame, you've got Gene, who is starting to slip back into those old slippin' Jimmy and Saul Goodman ways, trying to get his way into this house to get this guy to help him pull off this heist inside of the mall that he works. And I had a really interesting experience watching this episode, and I don't know if I'm alone in this. I don't know if I'm going to be the outlier, or if there's going to be a lot of people in the comments saying, dude, I had the same problem. When I watched this episode, my brain did not connect the dots that this guy Jeff, that Saul or Gene is grooming and using him as kind of the guy in the heist. I did not realize that that was the cab driver from previous seasons, from previous flash forwards, the guy that saw him and recognized him and then approached him in the mall and made him say the Better Call Saul phrase. They recasted the role, and the entire episode I never figured out that that was the same guy. I know that there is a little bit of a visual near the beginning of the episode where they show him in the rearview mirror of the cab and they show the Albuquerque isotopes, and it seems obvious now in hindsight, but because it's a totally different actor and the way that he plays the character, in my opinion, is very different than the little bit that we got in previous seasons, I never realized that was the same guy. And so my first viewing experience with this episode, I liked it, I enjoyed it, I had fun with the heist, as I always do, the little schemes in this show, but by the end of it, I sat there wondering, so what does all that fit in? Like, who is this guy? Is this just somebody from his past that, are we going to find out who he is? Are we going to find out in a subsequent episode? Are they just going to leave it there? Was he just pulling off a heist just because he can't take it anymore and wants to do something like he used to in the old days? I was just confused. And then I got online hours later and came across an article that talked about the recast, and I went, oh my God, I feel like an idiot. Now knowing that that is the guy, Jeff, the cab driver, the entire episode is reframed, and now it's not just this standalone, isolated little heist episode. It's all a scheme to give Saul the blackmail power to be able to get this guy to back the fuck off, saying, look, you just did like 3 felonies, you could go to prison for 30 years, easy. You fuck with me, I'm fucking with you. Cool? Capiche? All right, see you later. And so now I enjoy the episode so much more, having known that.
50-year-old high school chemistry teacher comes into my office. The guy is so broke, he can't pay his own mortgage. 1 year later, he's got a pile of cash as big as a Volkswagen.
The two actors look nothing alike, okay? Nothing alike. My brain would have never connected those dots had I not seen that article or got yelled at in the comments section if I had done this review before I found that out. And the way that he plays the character is a lot more dopey this time. He's a lot more kind of pathetic, to where he's this low-end guy who clearly has to move back in with his mom because he got into trouble, and he just wants to play the game with the big boys. Whereas in the previous flash forwards, that character Jeff seemed much more intimidating. Like, he seemed like he was getting in Saul's face and like, go ahead, say it. Like, it was just something about him that was different. It was more nefarious. And so, two completely different characters to me. If I have any criticism of this episode, I don't know why they had to recast the role. Obviously, they wouldn't if they didn't have to. I don't think they executed that recast as well as they could have. And I'm curious, let me know down below in the comment section how many of you guys were confused or did not connect the dots that that was the actual cab driver. Or am I the one telling you for the first time and now you're having that light bulb moment? So with all that being said, I did enjoy this episode. I like the fact that it's showing Gene starting to slip back into that Saul Goodman role. You can tell that he's been out of the game for a long time and he's been itching to do something besides smearing cream cheese all over a bunch of cinnamon rolls. And so I like the fact that the whole episode is framed like a heist movie, to where you get him slowly plotting this out and figuring out how he's going to time the time limit that he has with the camera blind spots with the security guards facing him, and then you get the whole thing where they string out the layout of the mall and run through it. Like, I love seeing stuff like that. I love heist movies when they're done really well, and those elements to me were a lot of fun to watch. And I even enjoyed how Saul worked his way in with the mom. He set up the whole situation with the electric cart in the snow and then got into the house. And I just love that silent conversation that him and Jeff have, where she's like, oh, come on in, Jeff. Look at who helped me get inside. He's such a nice man, Gene. And he just looks at him like, oh, shit. And Saul's just like, yeah, motherfucker, it's me. Time to play. Watching the actual heist get executed is always really exciting and very tense, especially when he slips on the floor and Jimmy has to create like this charade to buy himself an extra 30 seconds or so. And that was the best part of the episode for me, was when he had to break down and put on this facade like just to keep the security guard's attention. And then very quickly it changes from him putting on an act to him actually opening up to somebody about his past. And I thought it was a really brilliant way that they did that transition, just in Bob Odenkirk's acting, to where it's very clearly played up, it's very clearly over the top just to keep his attention. And he's talking about, I have nobody, you know, my parents are dead. And then he says, my brother is dead. And the tone just shifts. And you could see the change in his eyes to where he's no longer making shit up as he goes along. Now he's actually giving an account of his past and telling the security guard about how his brother's dead and about how he doesn't have a wife anymore. And I'm alone. I have nobody. I have nothing. If I died today, Cinnabon would hire somebody new and nobody would care. And it was a really interesting dynamic to where you go from the slippin' Jimmy side of this character to where he's just creating bullshit to try to have this smoke screen, to when he actually lets his humanity come out and is actually saying how he really feels on the inside, that how he's probably felt the entire time post Breaking Bad, and probably through a lot of Breaking Bad, where he doesn't have Kim, he doesn't have his brother, he has nothing. He's just this shell. He's just this guy in Breaking Bad that just lived life in excess and became kind of a caricature of himself. And then now in the post Breaking Bad world, now he doesn't even have that. He just has to play a lie. He has to be a lie every single day. Go home in fear, turn on the little radio scanners and maybe get a couple of hours of sleep and then go right back to the 9 to 5. So that to me was the most interesting part of this episode, was really getting into the headspace of the Gene side of this character. And ultimately when the heist goes mostly according to plan, everything works out. That was always fun to see. I always loved the schemes in the show, some of the most fun aspects of Better Call Saul across 6 seasons, and him eventually celebrating along with the other 2 guys while at the same time telling them exactly what's going on, that he just swindled them into doing this gigantic heist and getting a truck from across state lines and just piling on top of all these felony charges, and leaves them with, you rat me out, I go down, you go down, baby. And it was cool to see Saul take charge like that, because even though we've seen that quite a bit in Better Call Saul, in Breaking Bad, he always seemed like kind of a weaker character. Like he would always just kind of squirmy, and you would have Mike or Gus or even Walt. It would always put him in his place. And very rarely do you get to see Saul Goodman kind of take charge and be the badass and be the one telling everybody like, we're done when I say we're done, motherfucker. Like, and so that was really cool to see that side of his character by the end of the episode. There's still a part of me that is not worried, not concerned, because I have complete faith in the showrunners and in the writers, a little maybe confused about why we're still doing these kind of slower, a little bit more arguably isolated episodes at the end of this season and the end of this series. I feel like we should be kind of starting to ramp it up quite a bit. Still got 3 episodes left, I believe, so I'm sure that's about to happen. But even as an isolated episode, whether or not it's at the beginning or the end of the series, I did enjoy this episode overall. Well, that's it for me, guys. If you enjoyed this review, please click over here for the rest of my Better Call Saul reviews, and I'm also going to put my ranking of the Breaking Bad seasons up here. Like and share this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of my season review, as well as the rankings that I will be doing once Better Call Saul wraps. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.